Thanks. Hare Krishna. Okay, Mukunda, thanks. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunitiravanatari Jamuna Tiravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Chamunatiravanatari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Gariba Jakacharya Siddha Shishman's Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaura Vaishya Brinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadara Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakti Brinda Ki Say Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giti Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadip Dham Ki Jagannath-puri Dham Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Ganga Maya Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samveda Bhakti Vinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Say Sri Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Gopremanande. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the divine lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Svadamo Pagate Dhammaganari Bisaha Kalaudasa Dashamesha Paranarko Nidodita Narayana Namaskritya Namchaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tatojaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam is Brinda's son that has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess and learning Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So we are on Canto 4, Chapter 25, Verse 54, correcto? Oh, he did. Well, that changes the whole picture. Well, anyway, we're going to do 54. We're going to do it again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke for 3 months on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Said actually we could keep going, but there's 18,000 slokas, we should move on. So we don't have it on the board, but you have your devices. What to do here? I will quickly chant, and I'm going to read the purport again. Interesting. Andavamisham Puranam Nirvag Pesakrita Vubau Akshanvatam Adipatis tabyam yati karoti cha. And the translation is, of the many inhabitants of that city, there are two persons named Nirvak and Preshakrit. Although King Paranjana was the ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. Also you say, of the many inhabitants of this city, there are two persons named Nirvak and Peshakrit. Although King Paranjana was the ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. Purport. This is a reference to the arms and legs of the living entity. The two legs do not speak, and they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he is likely to fall into a hole or bump into something. Thus, led by the blind legs, one's life may be placed in jeopardy. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes to see. This means that the hands and legs, in the hands and legs there are no holes. In the head there are many holes, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. But lower down, the arms and legs, there are no holes. Consequently, the arms and legs have been described as andha, or blind. Although the living entity may have many holes in his bodies, he nonetheless has to work with his hands and arms. Although the living entity is the master of many other senses, when he has to go somewhere, do something, or touch something, he has to use his blind legs and hands. Om Ganatimarandasya Gyanagana Salakaya Chakshusha Militangena Tasare Shri Gurave Namaha. And we're going to read later on another analogy by Narada Muni and a poem. Probably sometime. This poem was by someone named Edwin Arlington Robinson. And I think you're going to like it. It's got a punch at the end. So, Om Ganatimarandasya Gyanagana Salakaya Chakshusha Militangena Tasare Shri Gurave Namaha. So, it describes the king, of course the allegory or the analogy is the living entity. He's going here and there. So he's traveling here, he's traveling there, various places, various activities. So similarly, the living entity, everyone's busy in this world. It's the very symptom of life. You know, if you see some beast, you want to know if it's dead, you poke it with a stick and see, whoa, geez, watch out. It, lashes out. So activity is the very indication of the living entity. So we're all active. Prabhupada describes there's there's the active intelligence, lazy fool, and active fool. Which is the worst of them all? An active fool. Prabhupada says many foolish plans which he enthusiastically carries out. So here we find the king representing the living entity. He's active. So we're all going to be doing something. We're all going to be active. We're all going somewhere. Everybody's got goals, aspirations. But the question has to be, if one's actually intelligent, what is the end result? How does it all end? What is it, Shakespeare? All that ends well, all's well that ends well. So how does it end? You can have a great run, but if you have a miserable, if it ends horribly, well then what's that? You can be ahead of the race, but if anyway, it's a long story. How does it end? That's the question. How does it end? So we have this life. What choices are we going to make? How is it going to end? So let's talk about that a little bit. And I was thinking, here we have the Bhagavatam. Well, I'll just say it this way. Who was it said the unexamined life is not worth living? Maybe it is Socrates. I think you're right. It is Socrates. So just to eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. Well, you will die. My famous, stuck in my brain. I was over to get my tires fixed many years ago, and one of the blokes asked the other bonehead, "Hey, what are you doing?" The guy said, "I don't know. I'm just killing time." Is that an accurate analysis? Is he killing time? Time's killing him. So you can just float along, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily, life is but a dream. But what if there's consequences? What if it's not just the will of the wisp, and everything you do in this world, for every action, there's an equal and an opposite reaction. It's a basic law of physics. We're also bodies of matter moving through time and space. We're also the living entity within, but we're performing activities, and there's no reaction. We're the only entity that's free from the laws of physics. Why? Doesn't make any sense at all. So the point is to examine what is the goal, an unexamined life. And I think it's Thoreau who says most men lead, and he means people, most people lead lives of quiet desperation. They eke out a little paltry, maybe they like the movie on Netflix. I mean, that's, where their dinner wasn't burnt, or, whatever it is. Their puppy loves them, There's a little something. Who is the guy? There's that, and he's not Rajneesh, but he's the big yogi he was in India. He's one of those, he's a long-haired guy, and his thing is the art of living. His name's on the tip of my tongue. Not Chopra. He's more recent than Chopra. He's the big guy now. He's a typical guy, long hair, saffron, this and that. And he had some big meeting, something like, maybe he's... Okay, it's not Maharishi. No, it's another one. So maybe it's a popular title. But anyway, here's the point. This guy's a big guy, long hair, saffron cloth, good beard, of course. And he's speaking to an audience, something like 150,000 people on the other side of the Jamuna River in Delhi. It's a big grounds there. And they asked him, "What is the meaning of love?" And the guy said, "When you go home after a long, rough day, battered around by your job or whatever it is, and you open your door and your dog greets you, and you see that love in your dog, that unrestrained, unconditional love, that's love." What? That's the best you could come up with? So my point is that if you go home and your dog loves you, okay, well, that's, somebody likes me. So most people lead lives of quiet desperation. And I think it's Hobbes, the guy who says that, life is nasty, brutish, and brief. It's a pretty acerbic analysis. Nasty, brutish, but if you wash it from all the illusions, like wine. What do they call those guys? Sommelier? What do they call a wine expert? And just take a sip. Now, can you? It was grown in the south of France. The granite in the soil and the lilac and the it's rotten. It's fermented grape juice. I mean, it's Viognier, whatever it is, it's and sometimes there's thousands of dollars for a bottle of rotten grape. So if you strip it from its veneer, I remember I only tasted beer once. I tasted it. I said, this stuff, of course, Prophet said it smells like horse urine, but I said, this stuff is nasty. And I remember my friend telling me, so-called friend, But it's an acquired taste. I say, why do you keep? He said, you keep drinking, you get to like the taste. I said, why keep drinking something that's nasty, so eventually I can tolerate it? I said, that doesn't make any sense to me at all, you know. So, and remind me, I want to read this poem later on. But stripped of the perfume, like a dead rat, you can perfume it, but it'll wear off, and trust me, in due course. And Bhagavatam says, Dharmasya hiyapavargasya. First canto, Bhagavatam. The Dharma, and Dharma means stripped of everything else, one's actual activities. What are the duties, activities? It doesn't mean in whatever, a kind of faith. But what is the essential Dharma, the essential activity and duty? And Dharmasya hiyapavargasya from the Bhagavatam means it puts an end to pavarga. Does anyone know what pavarga is? In this tone of nasty, brutish, and brief lives of quiet desperation or unexamined life? Pavarga is broken. It's evidently some division of Sanskrit. Thank you. First, you have to work very, very hard. Everybody's working hard. So much hard that they foam at the mouth. I remember, just as a sidelight, we used to do Harinam all day downtown Detroit. We'd take turns chanting and book distribution, maybe about 15 devotees, 12 devotees, 15 devotees. And then we would take the bus home at around 5:30 to get back, because everyone was out of the offices, gone by downtown by 5:30 then, and we take the bus back for the arti. And we would take the bus down Jefferson, and we would, halfway down, it was the River Rouge, not the river, it was the Unirail tire factory. And it was exactly like you imagined. The whole thing was completely black outside. And the guys from Hamtramck, the Polish guys who all worked at the Unirail tire factory, would all get on the bus. And they'd be completely black from soot, from making tires. And they were big Polish guys. And you would see them, and they would fall asleep because they'd been working so hard. On, you know, in the they would, and the funny thing, the devotees were also working hard, and you'd see the devotees fall asleep, and you'd see these big Polish guys asleep, and you'd see a little brahmachari snuggled up, asleep on their shoulder, sound asleep on their shoulder. So, I mean, we also work hard, but it's not this working hard like an ass. The ass works hard, the camel, all these animals, so much so that they're even like a horse when it races. And you've seen people that are working very hard, a lot of exercise, foam comes from the mouth. So this is life. Working hard, so hard that you're foaming like at the mouth. What's the next one? And what is the result of the thing? You're working very hard, but what is the ultimate? What can you take with you? So, and one's also baffled. One's confused and baffled. Well, you know, is this really what I want, and what am I getting, and how can I, you know? So there's always that underlying angst. And then what is the next thing? There's always some underlying angst, fear. Some psychiatrists were saying, you know, when people slow down to look at an accident, ghastly Ross, they're thinking, there but by the grace of God go I. So there's always some, you know, and it's a fact. You know, if there's a loud explosion, everybody jumps, you know, because there's always some underlying anxiety. You think about it. That's all we're really trying to do is push off the difficulties of this world. It's too hot. It's too cold. I might get sick. Don't step on this. Don't get an infection, what to speak of COVID. So there it is. And then what? It's hard work, so hard that you're foaming at the mouth. You're always confused, baffled, unsatisfied. There's always an underlying fear. I'm hankering for it. Am I going to lose it? What's, you know, all that kind of stuff. Adi bautik, adi daivik, adi atmik, miseries caused by other living entities, you know that. So that's going on. And then ultimately, the coup de grace, you're whacked, hauled off, dropped dead from some nasty disease or enfeebled by old age or hit by a bus. And on that happy note, we'll end class. No, so that's the unexamined life. Is that what human life is actually meant for? So the Dharma, actual knowledge, actual wisdom, actual course in life is meant to put an end to this cycle. The Vedic view is the perfect balance. What's the time? Vedic view, as Prabhupada points out here, you need the combination. What is it? If you have the blind man and the lame man, neither can walk. Fact or fiction? Blind man and lame man combined together, they both just sit there and commiserate? They work together. And how do they work together, Balaram? Yeah. So one man sees, another man carries. So Prabhupada points out here, you do need your legs. You know, I met a guy one time. He said his body is just to carry his brain around. You know, so you got to move around. You got to do something. You have to take advantage of the arms and legs. So there's a very nice example, and you can see it in the Vedic culture. It doesn't leave anything out. It's not one-sided. It's not hedonistic. It's not simply, armchair or speculative or head in the clouds. It is both. A train, of course, there's a monorail, okay, fine. But in general, a train runs on how many tracks? 2 tracks. And the Bhagavatam describes that there's 2 tracks in life. One is and they both start with C. Conditional is one. That's one rail. There's the conditional rack. What's the other one? Constitutional. Very good. Conditional means I have duties. I have constitutional duties. I have conditional duties. I have duties when I'm a child. I have duties when I'm a student. I have duties when I'm a father. I have duties when I'm a husband. But those conditions change according to my age and position in society. I have duties. So those are conditional. They depend on conditions. But you can't ignore them. If you ignore them, the whole society goes to hell in a handbasket. How if you don't, Prabhupada says even Krishna says in the Gita, even I have to work. So everybody has duties. So those are conditional duties. That's one rail. What's the other one? As he said, constitutional. What does that mean, Ram? I have eternal duties. What are the man does not live by bread alone, Jesus says. So what are we have a society that is simply focused on how to take care of the conditional duties. It's anemic. It's one-sided. It's trying to run a train on one track. But what about your constitutional duty? What about karma? What about destiny? What about the soul? What about where did it all come from? Who are you really? If you want to satisfy yourself, well, who are your what is your you see a baby, whatever. If you want to eat, you got to put it in your mouth. Prabhupada gives there's the example of when all the senses went on strike. You know this example? They called, because they were thinking, we're giving everything to the stomach and he's just sitting there. We do all the work. We're grabbing and tasting and finding and chewing, and the stomach just sits there. So we're going on a nonviolent non-cooperation sit-down strike. What happened? They had to call an emergency meeting within a week. Strike committee had to call an emergency meeting. You know why? Yeah, the whole body came with it. Oh, geez, we got to give it to the stomach. So, okay, I'm working, but where does everything come from? Is it all happening by chance? What if there actually is a supreme transcendent Lord and I'm dependent on? What if I can get out of this mess, this pavarga? Well, shouldn't I put some time towards that? So the Vedic culture understands everything, explains what are the duties, how to function peacefully in this material world, how to do one's conditional duties that also nurture one's constitutional duties. It's a perfect balance. It is not a one-sided, there it is. You need the arms and legs, and you need the eyes. And to hammer that down, Radhanath Maharaj spoke, and you can get, I think it's still online, it was a great talk. Radhanath Maharaj was invited to speak to a group of executives for the Bank of England. This is in London. You know, the famous Bank of England, you know, at one time the most powerful institution in the world, probably next to the British monarchy. So he was there speaking. And he starts off by asking them, how do you measure success? And how do you measure an advanced nation? We talk about it, what is it, the G9 and the G12, and they have these different, and it's all based on economic output. GNP, anyone what GNP stands for? Gross national product. What do you produce? How many widgets? How many bales of wheat? How many washing machines? That's how you measure. And that's how you measure how an advanced nation has a high GNP. But amazingly enough, it wasn't until about 10 years ago, a guy at Harvard, an economist, said, well, let's look at the healthy society. And let's look at drug addiction, incarceration, abortion. Let's look at the murder rate. Let's look at the suicide rate. Let's look at the volume of pharmaceuticals used. It was a good test, you know. Let's measure a healthy society. Because those are, what do you call that, measurables. So it's not speculation. And if you have a society that has a high incarceration rate, a high murder rate, high divorce rate, high suicide rate, per capita consumption of pharmaceuticals, depressants, you know, what psychotropic disease, what do they call them, you know? That's not a healthy society. Would you agree with me that if they have high rates of those things? Guess what? Guess where you find the highest rates? It parallels with, it completely, what is the word? Fits, huh? With the top, with the G9. Where you have the highest gross national production, you have the highest, these social ills, the signs of a society in stress. Far out, huh? And then, so it's true. Numbers don't lie. Well, actually, they do lie. You have to have an honest person presenting them. But the point is he was making, we need to measure, Radhanath Maharaj, to the bankers, these executives, the top executives at the Bank of England, we need to measure GNH, gross national happiness. That's how you measure. And there's measures for that. What is the divorce rate? You can just inverse the other on the other side of the thing. So Vedic, you cannot just have arms and legs. You cannot just be strong, have might, material might. But what is your measure of your happiness? What is your vision? What are you actually seeing? So, because of the time factor, also it describes that the king had a society. The city had citizens that could see, but he chose to associate with the blind arms and legs. We have a choice. All of us, each of us have our independence. Each of us have a choice. My mother used to say, you're just about as happy as you choose to be. And Prabhupada said it in a much more eloquent way. The mind, we determined, you can have two people sitting right next to each other. The weather's the same. They can be the same economic, whatever it may be. Two guys in school, same educational level, whatever it may be. They're all lusting after the same girl, and the girl chooses one and not the other. So one man's in ecstasy, one man is completely heartbroken and crushed. So all the external situations can be exactly the same. Their intellect, their financial, but one factor, and one's in misery, one's in hell. And it's like that all over the place. I mean, we don't really have time to go into it. And that's why I'm going to read this poem in a moment. But who do we choose? We have a choice. We have a choice. How do we choose who we associate with, what we associate with? That will determine our happiness. It is not determined by the externals. It is not by quantity. It's not how much stuff you can stack up. I mean, look at Donald Trump, I'm sorry to say. He has all the power, billions of dollars, so many women in his life, and the man is so insecure and neurotic and angry and agitated. I mean, he's a real piece of work. And the world is full. So it's not the external. They just don't. Power, prestige, president, the most prestigious position in the world, top of the heap. Heap of what? That's the other question. But Prabhupada says we're all like at this. He's using his arms and legs to go somewhere, as I said in the beginning. So where are we going, and who are we associating with? Are we choosing to associate with blind people, and go to and where are we going? So the Prabhupada says you train the mind. The mind can be like one of two things, and I mentioned it the other day, but a recap is good. And they both buzz. Oh, that's a big hint. They both have wings. Oh, come on now. Okay, one is a bee. What's the other? A fly. Who do you want to be, a bee or a fly? Of course, you want to go back home, back to Godhead, but why? Where will you find a bee? Nice place. And making honey. It's great, you know. Where will you find a fly? All kinds of nasty things. I've heard that flies were born out of the killing of a cow, but I don't know if I've got to find the Shastric reference for that. But certainly, it's certain to say that they are nasty, nasty, nasty. So Prabhupada said, if we try to find the good in other people, see their good qualities, if we try to, instead of railing like Lear on the moor against the misfortunes of life, but what can I learn from this? Somehow this is Krishna's sending me. Education means, the Latin root, to draw from darkness into light. So if we think, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can I grow? Whatever the situation. And if I'm dealing with someone, well, what are the good qualities? Let me try to, Prabhupada said, find the spark and fan it. Then what kind of world is it? One lives in a positive, productive, nurturing world. And if one's a fly that just finds fault and finds misery and criticizes everything, then no matter who you are, you're a miserly, shriveled up Grinch. So we have a choice. Who do we associate with, and how do we see? So I wanted to read, and the point is, well, maybe we'll just do that. I wanted to read this poem, because Prabhupada will quote poems sometimes. And the presentation is that we're thinking that everyone else is happy. If I just made the right choices, I'd be, if I just made this adjustment, if I just had this, if I wasn't this, if I could get rid of that, if I could hankering and lamenting, if I could just juggle it all. And there are people who've got it all together, I'm just, if I just play the game right, take another whack at it. What is it, It's not if you get knocked down, but if you get back up. Well, if you keep getting knocked down, maybe don't get up. Maybe you should go the other way, But anyway, so this is by Edward Arlington Robinson. I think it's written in the 1910, 1920s. But here goes. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked. But still he fluttered pulses when he said, "Good morning." And he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. Didn't expect that, did you? We don't know what they're thinking, but everybody's in anxiety. Even they got it, they're in anxiety about losing it. Even they've got it, somebody's... Who would they? There was that Ted Turner, a billionaire. And he said, nobody's at peace. They said, "Ted, how much is enough?" He said, "Oh, you've never got enough." He said, "Because you're always... It's competition. Who's got more? You got the Forbes top 10, and I'm only number 4. Jeez. Well, got to get to work, you know? So, in summation, we can end here, but we should not just be lumbering like a beast. Strong arms, strong legs, strong nation. Prabhupada's famous example. A man kept saying, I was in the room, a man kept saying, "Oh, we're making progress, but Swami, we're made progress on this front, and we're making progress on that front," and because that's their argument. Prabhupada said, "Yeah, you're making progress." He said, "You're moving. Your progress is like a moth into the flames. You're moving, but where are you going?" Oh, never thought of that, you know? So, there it is. We should hear from the Bhagavatam, and we have a choice. And what kind of world we live in depends on our choice. And the key to choice is, as the king here picked the wrong association, the key is the right association. So we can end there. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.